beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Gin College Podcast. I'm your host, John J. II, here with Cody Almasi, college sports insider and analyst. Cody, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing good, man. Got lots of college sports going on like every day right now. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it doesn't matter. Hoops, football, action, top 25 basketball teams playing. It's great. Oh, and we got the Turkey Bowl this weekend. Get to bring the athlete in me out of retirement and help whatever lucky team picks me to victory. Hopefully again. So
that's right. We got the Turkey Bowl coming up this Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. It is back. It was in a hiatus stage last year, but it's back. The fight for the silver and actually the platinum platter. It's silver, but it's platinum. The platinum platter will be up for grabs this weekend, so be on the lookout for that in a video coming soon your way, probably next week. But yeah, like you mentioned, lots of college sports, lots of college football. College basketball is in full force. And we actually missed, and this is my fault. I had to actually have you remind me about the sports eclipse that happened, or the equinox that happened last week.
Yes.
And that we kind of missed that. We missed the opportunity to cover that in last week's show, but that had just passed us by. And after the World Series ended, it was in the past. But yeah, a lot of sports in full force right now. We're dealing with a lot of sports. There's a lot to cover, a lot to talk about. And really, college hoops has taken the stage, taken the front burner for us because it's back. It's new. It's fresh. We got to talk about it. We're already putting our sights on March, which is crazy because it seems like we just started this season with the season of college football, and that's towards the back nine. Now we're making college football playoff rankings. We're already at that stage of the season. So it's exciting. A lot's going on, a lot to keep track of, a lot to stay on top of, but it's a lot of fun. So where are we at with our college hoops scene? The opening week had just occurred a couple days ago. So where are we looking right now, and how are we feeling?
Yeah, we've had a couple of good games early, but, teams that were making noise last year started off with USC number 21, early exit out of the tournament last year, going up against Kansas State, though, who did some damage in the tournament. And it was USC coming out on top. This was a late game on Monday night, and USC took that one 82-69, pulled away from the Wildcats late and covered the spread. And Boogie Ellis for USC is looking to have another good year and hopefully take them further into March. But that's a long ways away. There was another game on that day as well, a little bit earlier, a higher ranked team, one we're kind of familiar with, my co-host here especially, and that is the Michigan State Spartans, thought to be a tune-up match against the James Madison University Dukes, and that's not really what occurred. Do you want to inform the people what went down?
I'd be happy to. Yeah, so basically when you go 1 for 20 from the three-point line, when you shoot terrible from the stripe, you can't count on your star players to make free throws, you're not going to win the game. And to even be in that game in the first place, to get to OT, that was a miracle in and of itself. And Tyson Walker, when you can't count on him, it's one thing when Hogarth's playing like shit. You can deal with that. Tyson Walker was playing a good game. He couldn't make his free throws, so that was what hurt the team. And when you got to count on one player like this, it's tough. You really can't be in any game against any opponent. And these James Madison Dukes, they played a hell of a basketball game. And they came in there poised, nothing to lose, going into a hostile environment, playing the Breslin, first game of the season. And they were ready to play. They came wanting to play, ready to play, knowledge of the game, no fear to shoot from outside the arc, making your free throws, getting smart fouls, maybe a couple mistakes here and there, but nothing that was irreversible. And it was just too much for this Michigan State team. Tom Izzo, you could see that he was furious on the sidelines, couple missed calls, couple bad calls, but it didn't come down to the refs. This was not a referee-controlled game. This was a game that Michigan State lost. And it's almost like they wanted to lose that game. And it got to the point where you almost wanted Michigan State to lose because they didn't deserve to win. They didn't play good enough to win. They didn't keep themselves in the game. They did keep themselves in the game, but by the skin of their teeth, they did. And it was not a good basketball game. It was not a good performance. And it was tough to watch. It really was. And I'm not – and we've seen this Michigan State team do this. We've seen them struggle even in the preseason to close out games against Tennessee Volunteers. And when you're in those 50-50 situations, you got to be able to close out the game, do something as a team. And you can't just count on Tyson Walker. You can't count on one player. You got to be able to count on multiple players. And a lot of players dropped the ball. It was hard to watch. That's really all I can say. And these guys got a lot of work to do. And I guess you can go the route of saying, okay, I'm glad this happened early. But this is too early. This is not against the Gonzaga team. This is not against the Kentucky Wildcat team. This is not against Duke, which we got Duke here in a couple days. But this is just a bad loss early, really bad display, and not starting off on the right foot.
Yeah, and this graphic I made, I got a little tear falling from Tyson Walker's eye, and that's not because of his performance. That's because of the lack of his teammates' performance, because my man had 35 points, and the rest of the team was nowhere to be found. The only other person in double digits is Carr, coming off the bench for you guys, and he
played a hell of a game.
Yeah.
He played a hell of a game, too. I mean, you
can't do it alone.
To that kid.
If you're Tyson Walker, you can't do it alone, especially not against a quality team. Like you said, you got Duke Tuesday night, weekday matchup with the Blue Devils. Sure, it's going to draw a lot of eyes because it should still be a marquee matchup, even though we expect the Spartans to dip a little bit in the rankings. But week one losses happen in college basketball and to top 10 teams. It happens. Stuff happens. And we got to talk about it when it does. And 0-2 against the spread. The Sparties do not cover tonight either. Still win handily by 23, but 32-point favorites over Southern Indiana tonight. A lot more of a spread out effort though from your MSU ballers, and a lot more guys in double digits. Looks like 4 out of the 5 starters, and a good game back. I mean, it is Southern Indiana, but it's a step in the right direction, I guess.
Yeah, but you got to expect more out of players like Mady Sissoko, Malik Hall. I mean, in the first game, and we're talking about the James Madison game going back a little bit, just terrible. And you're talking about your veteran guys. A lot of these guys are 3rd, 4th year guys, and you can't count on them. You got guys coming off the bench, freshmen that are coming off the bench. Fears doing some work, getting the job done somewhat. Not playing a hell of a game. Got some minutes. Got 12 minutes on the court, but Carr, you got to give it up to Carr, because he came off the bench, did a hell of a job. And when you're not counting on Jaden Akins, AJ Hogarth's playing terrible. Mady Sissoko's not there. Malik Hall is garbage. It's really tough to win a basketball game against any team. So I'm hoping for the best for them. I'm going to be pulling for them. I know they got a good team. I think it's a little ambitious from the AP to put them at 4. And I think that's just because they had a lot of guys coming back. A lot of their seniors are there. But this is kind of their year to do it. I mean, if it wasn't last year, this is their year to do it. So that they're kind of going off of that. But State's notorious for getting, really high expectations going into the early stages of the season, dropping down low, losing some bad games, and then fighting an uphill battle, which isn't the worst thing to do. It's not the worst position to be in, but you want to start off on a little bit better foot than this. But we'll have to see what happens. I would say have a practice, and they might have done this already. Shoot free throws. Have your outside guys, your perimeter guys, your forwards, your point guards. Just have them shoot some threes. Get comfortable around the arc. Because it got to the point in that game, that James Madison game, they were scared to shoot. Everyone was scared to play basketball. And when you're in that mode, you can feel it watching that game, that they're scared. And when you can't play basketball scared. James Madison wasn't playing scared basketball, and that's why they won that game.
Yeah. MSU is trying to, fight for their life for the win, and James Madison, you're in that spot. You got nothing to lose. So you're shooting with no fear because you're playing with house money at that point. And the James Madison Dukes deserve a little respect on their name, taking down the number 4th ranked team to start off the college hoops season. And in football, they're making some noise as well. The Dukes are 9-0 in the Sun Belt Conference. It's their second year joining the FBS from the FCS, moving up to Division I, making that leap. And when you make that leap, the NCAA, farce of a league, terrible rules and things in place, has nothing to do with the current scandal affecting my school. But the NCAA puts a 2-year probationary period on any team making that leap to Division I from Division II or III, and can't play in the postseason. And the James Madison Dukes are sick of it. They filed an appeal once that was immediately denied by the NCAA, and they're not losing hope. They are unwaveringly submitting another application to be accepted into postseason. And if they pass me the petition, I would sign it. James Madison is cooking whatever they're doing over there in Virginia, and deserve a little respect.
Yeah, I mean, throw them a bone. Give them an opportunity to play in the postseason. I mean, you're 9-0, your first season in the FBS. Give these guys a chance. I mean, come on. I mean, you're telling me you're not even going to hear them out? 9-0. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's not like you're 5-4. You know what I mean? You're playing good. You're not. And a lot of people probably expect them to be 5-4 or worse, being your first season in the Sun Belt. But they're coming out. They're playing football. And you got to throw them a bone. At least give them a bowl game, maybe a lower tier bowl game, just to kind of ease them into being a Division I FBS football program. But give them something. You got to give them something.
Yeah, got to be more compelling to put in one of these companies' bowl games than a 6-6 team or a 7-5 team that lucked out on a win or two. And it shouldn't be there anyway. So
exactly,
let's throw the Dukes a bone, damn it.
They got to. That's gonna be a travesty if they don't.
Yeah, and we will be yelling from the rooftops for justice from the CFP committee. If they don't, or the postseason committee, the bowl committee, whoever the powers at hand may be, we will want to have a word with them. That's all there is to be said about that.
I'll get on my roof and scream for the Dukes.
Let's do it. Let's do it on the show. But
yeah, I'll do it. I'll bring the whole setup under my roof.
They're not 9-0, but there's another team making some waves. It's Jeff Brom's first year as head coach at Louisville, so some more firsts going on, and they're cooking a little bit. The number 11 Cards are 8-1 with wins over Duke and Notre Dame, and pretty impressive wins at that. 2-score win over Notre Dame. Notre Dame has showed some inconsistency of late, just taking a loss to Clemson recently. But if Ohio State can use that win over Notre Dame to boost them to the number 1 team in the CFP, Louisville deserves to, brag about that a little bit. And then the 23-0 shutout over the Duke Blue Devils with the season they're having and what Riley Leonard and Mike Elko can do. Those wins, they have some meaning to them. And it's not to be said that the Cardinals don't have to take care of business. They are actually in a battle right now with Virginia. The Cavaliers, they find themselves trailing by 4. The Cavaliers are up 21-17 right now, and that would really murky the waters here for the Cardinals and their alleged cruise to the Atlantic Coast Championship game to challenge the number 4 Florida State Seminoles, who have already locked up a spot in that championship game. So I guess, what are your feelings on Jeff Brom's first season in Louisville? Do they pull out the win tonight? Do they get to the ACC championship game? How are you feeling about the Cards?
Well, you got to get through this game. You got to get through tonight's game against the Cavaliers. The win probability meter has shifted drastically to Virginia's favor with an 86.7% win probability.
Ooh.
But listen, Jeff Brom and the Louisville Cardinals, they're cooking. They're cooking. He's cooking ramen with a Glock 9, Jeff Brom is. And basically, they're playing good football. They're beating good teams. They're right there with Florida State. If this result holds, they won't. But you're counting on it, everything to happen in a certain way. And you got Georgia Tech on your tail in the conference. So things could change, things could shift, especially with the Georgia Tech win this weekend. But listen, they're playing good football. They got Miami and they got Kentucky still. So they got to win out and they got to play well. But I like their chances. If they can get out of tonight, I think they can make a splash and do some work. They could do some harm for Florida State and maybe even stir the pot for the CFP going down the stretch, depending on what happens in that game, because that will undoubtedly take Florida State out of the running with a loss to Louisville. So I'm pulling for them. I like this Cardinals team. I like Jake Plummer, and Jack Plummer rather, and I like their offense. I like how they can present themselves. They can play good football. They can beat good teams. They can really put the hammer down, and they have the potential to do that. This result right now with the Virginia-Louisville game going on right now, it kind of throws some question marks at you. It kind of takes, it switches the script, throws an audible at your script going into this game, maybe before the game started. But we'll see what happens. There's still a lot of time left in the fourth, but it's going to be an uphill battle. But I'm hopeful for the Louisville Cardinals to make a splash and go on to play in the ACC championship.
Yeah, luckily for them, Georgia Tech's overall record, not their conference record, is a lot worse. So they have a little breathing room as far as that's concerned. But then you don't want to suffer another loss. It benefits, it's a tough matchup, but playing Kentucky from the SEC, that wouldn't be a conference loss. So kind of an unforeseen benefit having that game late in the schedule when you're kind of battling for positioning in the conference. But yes, it will be a great matchup if they do meet with FSU and can kind of play that spoiler a little bit. So we will wait and see there. And we'll possibly, if we're still on air, give you an update of this game once it goes final. Cardinals are trying to keep the Cavs out of the end zone right now, which would be huge for them in the terms of a comeback.
So tell me this, what would happen, say Georgia Tech musters up a win at some point, and Louisville not only loses tonight, but they lose to Miami. How would the script change then for the ACC championship?
That would murky the waters just a little bit, but Louisville started the year at Georgia Tech getting a W. So they have that head-to-head in their favor, and they will keep it in their back pocket in case things get that way. But I know Jeff Brom is going to do everything in his power kind of to prevent that. It looks like this third quarter for them tonight has really been disastrous. The game has come unraveled for them. So it doesn't look like things, that can't be fixed, can't be cleaned up in the coming weeks.
Cool. We'll be pulling for them. I'd love to see them give Florida State a test and stir that top 4 pot, because once you get to this point in the season, we're going to talk about this a little bit more going down the stretch, but how the picture right now, the perspective that we have right now looking at the college football playoff is by no means etched in stone. There's very high potential for that script to be flipped. So there's teams at the 5, 6, even 7 position that are licking their chops right now. They have to win out. They have to play good football to retain position in that top 7. But it's going to be an interesting story, an interesting narrative maybe going down the stretch if some of these top 4 teams can lose going down these last couple games.
Most definitely. And we'll be monitoring that chaos. We've been monitoring another team in the top 4 of the CFP rankings week in and week out for some outside noise that's going on, some scandals, and just really can't go through a week without, hearing something new or getting a new clipping from this story. And everybody's talking about it, so we will continue to give you updates on the Connor Stalions situation. He is out, actually, at Michigan not long after we got off air last week. The university let him go, and he resigned simultaneously. Took a sword for the university, for the program, if you will. Fell on his sword happily because he loves his school, even in his disgrace. He's probably loving it, Mr. Stalions. And you have homeless people in the streets of Ann Arbor and elsewhere begging for Jim Harbaugh to leave their signs alone. Don't steal my sign, Jim. And things just have reached an all-time high of just no notoriety, and not really in a good way here in Ann Arbor and at the University of Michigan. And I'm sick of talking about it, but we can't really be done talking about it, so here we are.
Michigan is being looked at the molecular level right now, and more than they ever have. And it's kind of somewhat fizzled out to some extent as far as new allegations, new scandals coming out day by day. And listen, every college has them. They have skeletons in their closet. Every college, no matter how big, no matter how small, they have them. But they're looking at Michigan under a microscope right now. Stalions is out at Michigan. I don't know. I mean, is he still wearing maize and blues? Is he still pulling for Michigan? I don't know, but it's guaranteed that he's a sacrificial lamb for Michigan, and that's what he was. And I think he might have known that role getting into the position he was in. He worked his ass off to get into the position he was in. You can go into the manifestos and his grand scheme, his master plan for the program if you want. But basically, this was always a possibility for Stalions. This was always on the plate. This is always on the agenda as a possibility for him to have to face it. And I think I really do. I think they were thinking, this is Michigan as a program. They were thinking, hey, we're going to fly under the radar for a while. Maybe we'll get caught at some point, but we're going to fly under the radar for quite a while. They're not going to catch on to us right away. And from what it's looking like, and this is kind of matching up with a lot of the thoughts and hypotheses that we had, and a lot of this was an inside job. Otherwise, it probably never would have reached the main stage. So there's whistleblowers in and out of the university on the inside that you got to be wary of, and you got to really be careful. If you're Jim Harbaugh and you're looking at the coaches and guys on your staff that you're holding close, and you're letting them have some insider confidential information, classified information, you got to really be careful with who you share that with and who you keep close, because you never know who's going to talk. You never know who's going to be squealing and giving information out that maybe they shouldn't have. That's going to hurt the university. So we're seeing that rear its ugly head right now. And tell you what, I'm going to try like hell after we get off tonight to get Connor Stalions on the podcast. Whether or not he reaches out back or not, that's unknown. But I got my sights on Dan Dakich and Connor Stalions. If we get both of them, then that'd be great.
Yeah, just surprise, have them get on at the same time.
Yeah, like they don't even know.
Have some words with each other. That'd be our best show.
That'd be good television.
Right, make it easy for me. Just kind of I built a graphic with some boxing ring in the background, and we can get a little bell, ding, ding, ding. And
I would probably remove myself from it entirely. I just watch it from. I'd have the best seat in the house. I'd be watching right here in the studio, but I would just watch, because that'd be a hell of a conversation to see. And granted, they both stay on. It'd be even better if we get them in person, because it's like, you can't just leave the podcast like you can just leave this podcast, the virtual. But it would be a hell of a conversation to witness. It'd be fireworks. I would want Connor Stalions to come out swinging. Don't back down to Dan Dakich, because he is big tech. He is big media. He's all over the place. He is a leech in the media. He is basically this is going to sound bad, but he's like a media terrorist. He goes in and he just stirs the pot. He's like a witch. It's like the Wicked Witch of the West. And basically he's going to stir the pot until something comes out of it. And, he has a lot of hot takes, a lot of likable attributes, other than the part that he's a scumbag and, a piece of shit and all this. But a lot of good attributes, a lot of, and he's open to controversy. We love controversy over here at GSN. He's the very same way with him and his platform. So I do respect that side of it. But from a Michigan State's fans' perspective, 99% of the time, everything that comes out of Dan Dakich's mouth is BS. And I don't want to hear it, even if it's true. And he'll get you when you're down, basically. And he's doing that to Michigan, taking it every chance he gets, every tweet. It has something to do with Michigan and their program, or Jim Harbaugh this, Connor Stalions that. And it's a mess. It's a mess. But Michigan fans will get through it. And if they can get away from all this unscathed, and they don't punish the athletes, they don't punish the team for their wins, they don't, it doesn't hinder their CFP chances, then I think that this will be something that Michigan fans and Big Ten fans, football fans, at some point, someday, will look back at and laugh about it. So we're hoping that's what happens.
I hope so. It's not going to go away soon. And even if we have success, the fans elsewhere, where they're going to put an asterisk by this, even if no one else does, they all are. And that they're entitled to do that.
If it officially has an asterisk, it's one thing if it officially has an asterisk next to it. If it's just the fans and naysayers that are saying, this is BS. These guys they won it, but they didn't deserve to win it. If that's just the fans saying it, then that doesn't really hold any weight, in my opinion. And in reality, whether you're stealing signs or not, you still got to go out there and play football. This Michigan team has held, they're the best for points allowed right now. And you can't attribute all that to sign stealing. You just can't. You got to go on there and play the game. And regardless, even you don't have communication with the players in the field from the coaches' side of things, and there's no communication. So to be able to even say you have all the signs for the opponents you're playing, every single sign you have it memorized, you have it written down, you have it in your memory bank. You still got to go out there and play it play by play. So even if they say that team flips the script and gets rid of those signs they had, that Michigan had, that Stalions has documented, you still got to apply that knowledge in an in-game scenario with seconds to react. And to do that, even with all the knowledge, is, next to impossible. So they still won the games, and I don't think there's any asterisks that are deserving for this Michigan team.
Well said. And it is coming to light, other schools are acquiring signs. Apparently Rutgers, and OSU. This is confirmed. Acquired Michigan signs and fed them to Purdue to help them in the Big Ten championship game. The only thing that's not confirmed is how they acquired the signs. So they could have done it legally, but other schools have signs on teams. Like, it's not just a cheat code that you put in to 2K and it makes the shooting percentage of the other team go down. So these are very good points that you bring up here, John.
And in reality, since that's confirmed, that will really water down this whole Connor Stalions thing. It will. And a lot of this stuff is coming out. You're going to see it leak into other conferences. And this is going to be something that's, I think, more of a widespread thing than really meets the eye. Before the fact, and even before Stalions resigned, it was thought that, just Michigan's doing this. No other team would ever think to do this. This is just a Connor Stalions, Jim Harbaugh, Michigan Wolverines scheme. When in reality, that's not really the case. So a lot of it's going to come out of the wash, and a lot of teams are going to be put under the microscope. Maybe not as much as Michigan has. They're more or less, Michigan as a program, not just Connor Stalions. Michigan as a program has become the sacrificial lamb of sorts in this. They're the precedent-setting program for this type of scandal. So we're going to see a lot go on, and there's a lot to unfold in the coming months. And maybe even after the dust settles, after the college football playoff and the championship happens, we're going to see a lot of stuff happen too, going into the 2024 season, which then you have the 12-team format, which a lot of things will change there too. It's going to be worlds colliding.
Yes, sir. Indeed. And you bring up the 12-team format, I think, at a perfect time, because we're going to look at a little bit of a tease for next year, but also look at some rankings we've compiled for this year and how they would translate to next year's playoff system, and kind of where these four teams sit and the kind of matchup they would be getting after their first round bye. And yeah, we're just going to have a little bit of fun with it here. This week, we're going to look at John's 12, and then next week, we'll take a look at my 12 after this weekend, and hopefully get Jin compiled one that, we have the algorithm to. We run it through a machine, and it gives us a pretty little 12-numbered list that is mathematically put together by the Gin College Sports experts themselves. But without further ado, John, I'll give you the floor. And yeah.
Thanks, Codes. Yeah, so I'm looking at this, and we did the top four teams, obviously, given the rankings that were released by the College Football Playoff Committee earlier this week, and just kind of compiling everything, looking at different attributes, scandals, points that the AP has given them, and a lot of different things. And that's kind of what's going to go into the algorithm when we eventually, Cody and I are going to come up with our, it's going to be a jointly comprised top 12, which is going to happen once the picture becomes clear going into the month of November a little bit more, and even into December. But looking at this, Georgia obviously number one. You look at the strength of schedule, strength of conference. SEC still holds the rope there until next year. Until next year, they hold the strength as the juggernauts of the college football scene. So you got to give them one. Carson Beck and the Georgia Bulldogs have got it done unscathed. Had a couple close games, but they're unscathed, and they stay at the number one spot unanimously. And then you got Florida State, Jordan Travis, and the Florida State Seminoles get them at number 2, Ohio State number 3, and Michigan at number 4. I know I was going to get some heat from Cody about putting Michigan at 4, and it was well deserving. And maybe I brought the scandal, the Connor Stalions and Jim Harbaugh scandal, might even threw the cheeseburger gate into that algorithm to put them at the 4th spot. But listen, whether or not it was from different attributes or different reasons or not, you're still in a good spot looking at the 12 team, because you look at it from a bracket perspective, a little bit of bracketology. We're going to get bracketology here next year in reality, and we're going to get it earlier than March, which is going to be a great thing. So you get them down there in the bottom left corner quadrant, and you got Washington and Ole Miss. I got Ole Miss at 12, Washington at 5. Michael Penix Jr., they have remained unscathed. Don't know how they're at number 5. They're licking their chops right now, trying to get in the top 4, hoping one of these top 4 teams can slip up going into the rest of November. But I don't mind that. I don't mind that quadrant for Michigan. You're looking at a weakened Washington team that shows you strength and lots of weakness and flashes. and this Ole Miss team, which, they're a 12 seed, very much of a long shot to even be in the top 12, really. So I'm liking where they're at. I wouldn't want to be Georgia because I don't want to play Alabama right now, and especially Georgia, Alabama. I mean, you got bracket experts, you got college football playoff experts looking at this. They're licking their chops because they like seeing Texas and Alabama go at it to then play Georgia. Because even get Texas and Georgia, that's going to be a hell of a game. And then you look at the top right quadrant, you got Penn State, Louisville. Louisville's in limbo right now. This could throw everything in a tailspin. But then you got Florida State. They kind of got a good little path, I could say, as far as the bracket's concerned. Florida State to take on Penn State or Louisville. Penn State can be capable of surprise. Yes, they can. They took a loss to Ohio State, which throws some question marks up. But I like Florida State to beat Penn State or Louisville, given the current state. And then you got Ohio State playing against Oregon State. Oregon State's showing you a lot of promise right now. They're a tough team to play, and they're showing you – the Beavers are showing you something that you really didn't expect to see out of this year's Oregon State team. And then even having Oregon State playing Oregon in the first round of the 12-team format to then play the bye team, Ohio State, that's exciting for fans too. The Texas-Alabama matchup, that's a rematch. So you got some matchups here that can really – I mean, this is reality. This could very easily happen. And experts are going to be looking at this, licking their chops, liking this. If this is what we're looking at going into the playoff structure, this is a great place to be, because then you got teams that got to play top 4 teams after they have the bye. They might be a little bit, shaking a little bit. They got to do practice, do some dry runs where they're not really feeling like they're ready. And these opponents that are playing in the first round, they're going to be more ready because they have that playoff experience in the current season. So a lot of elements here that have to get thrown into a blender, and basically analysis has to be attributed to it. So when you're looking at all the factors, looking at all the attributes involved, it's an interesting scheme. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I'm thinking about it a little bit more a little deeper than maybe I should, but these are questions and these are things that are going to be on the forefront for analysts going into this stage next year.
Yeah, man. I think right now, if you were to freeze frame this bracket that we have up on the screen for everybody right now, this is what the TV networks would want, because you got some money-making ratings going on. The Texas-Alabama rematch for Alabama to right their ship, and then the Texas-Alabama-Georgia, any combination of that matchup is going to make a lot of people turn the TVs on a Saturday night. And then Oregon State rivalry to go face Ohio State. Oregon and Ohio State, they got some history there as far as a national championship, and just, a little bit of a rivalry throughout the years going on there. And it's just a lot of fun when you kind of just think about what could be, and almost a bracketology feel. Like you said, we're getting March in December essentially, and I'm here for it. And another aspect that we've talked about the last couple of years with, the tease of moving to the 12-team system. We've said it would take away from the regular season, but on the contrary, some of these teams that are, from 15 or 13 to 25, trying to make their way into the top 12, they're playing for more each and every week, and it's creating more meaningful matchups in that sense. So there's going to be lots and lots of unforeseen benefits to this 12-team system, and I wish it was this year, honestly, because it's going to be so much fun.
I know, I do too. In a weird way, I feel like, they had to have been thinking about this too for some time. And in a weird way, though, going way back into the early days of the GCP, I almost feel like we were speculating on this before it was even made public. We almost spoke this into existence, this 12-team format with football. Before, we thought it was unthinkable. We got the 14 format when the college football playoff became a thing, and that was a lot for us. That was a lot for us to take in and to, let marinate. That was amazing to have. That kind of got old. That got on its way out. We find ways to improve that. We kind of speculate. We fantasize. We make brackets, have some bracketology feel going into it. Fast forward into 2024, and next thing you know, it's a reality. It's in the framework. So that's exciting. I like seeing the NCAA and the College Football Playoff Committee combine themselves with the college football scene and make changes, make improvements to the playoff system, because this gives teams more opportunity. This gives those lower tiered FBS teams more of an opportunity to find your way into a 12 spot, to play a good season. Still got to play a good season. You can't play terrible, but you have an opportunity. It opens the door, opens the field up to more teams, more potential opponents and contenders. So it's exciting. It makes it happen because the 12 seed could win it all, really. So it's exciting stuff. It's exciting times, and I'm just happy to be here for it.
Same. Can't wait for the discussions to come in regarding the 12-team football playoff in the future. But let's put a bow on the show. We're bringing back a segment that we had in the early eeks of this season, and it's made a return because I've been monitoring somebody's situation. I think he's ready to be back in the spotlight. So first, he teased us there. I got a little peek as we dissolved into the mullet of the week. It has returned, and it's going to make a triumphant return with Larry Legend. And kind of where John is right now. We got him in his Indiana State Sycamore days, about to, cut down some nets. But also, he's business in the front, and he's partying in the back. And it's not super traditional yet, but you could tell he has his mind on a mullet in that uniform. And then you fast forward to when he is hoisting Larry O'Brien trophies, and it's just down to a science at that point. You can tell it's trained. It is flowing with him. His coast to coast, catching the rebound, flying down the lane, and hammering a dunk. Or, hitting you with a nasty hook shot, a jumper, whatever he was going to do to you as he talked his talk to you. And you had to watch that nasty mullet skip away from you going back down the hardwood. And just, had to leave some dudes just miserable, man. Just that's what they were seeing when they closed their eyes next to their wife at night. Just those locks bouncing away from them. And he's just muttering under his breath, I told you I was going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And what that mullet did, it added insult to injury to every opponent. That either if Larry would dunk on you or you'd shoot a little jumper from the baseline in your face, that just made it hurt a little bit more. And I think that was part of the scheme for Larry Legend, because that's what he wanted to do at the end of the day. He wanted to inflict as much pain on the basketball court with his game that he could. And if that means growing out the mullet and being in your Sycamore days, having that vision, being in a Celtics uniform to inflict that kind of pain on an opponent in the National Basketball Association, that's what he was going for, and that's what he did. So whatever his scheme, whatever his mentality was going into it from the beginning stages, everyone that grows a mullet too. Let me lay some knowledge on you here, Codes. They have a scheme. They have an ideal situation where they have, okay, this is where I am. This is where I'm going to be. Okay, and there's a long journey. There's a long stretch in between those 2 points. And it's a hell of a journey. I've been on the journey for quite some time now, months, and it's exciting, man. It's a journey. It's a journey unlike any other. It's a voyage, if you will. So I'd love to be on it. I love to kind of put myself in the position of some of these world-class athletes that have gone on this voyage before me, and it's amazing. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah, why don't you show the people who are tuned in the live show what you're working with there? Oh, yeah, it's coming out from the back of the visor. It's really starting to take shape there. And the best is yet to come, though. That's what I can see. And the vision is yet to be completed.
That's true. That's true. It is coming into focus, though. It's coming into focus, and it's I don't want to say it's coming to an end, but it's reaching that point where it's like, okay, how far do we want to go with this? How far do we want to go? How far are we going to take this? Because in his Sycamore days, I'm talking about Larry Legend again. he had a vision. And along that journey, along that voyage, you have doubts. You say, oh man, I don't know if I want to grow this out. I don't know if I want to take this the distance. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, you have those doubts, but you persevere. You fight through it. And those are devils on your shoulder that you got to just kind of brush them off and say, hey, that I didn't even hear that. So you move on, you go forward, and you continue onward and upward. And that's the basis of it. And that's probably the most important part of it. And that's with any journey. That's not just with growing a mullet. That's with anything. So
hey,
words I live by.
It translates to growing a beard as well. There are doubts along the process of, getting that nice full beard. I know a lot of guys experience the patchy stage, and, you gotta fight through and just have faith in your beard, just grow it. Just do it. And that's kind of what Jeff Brom and the Cardinals are doing. They have found their way. Now they're up 7 on the Cavaliers. They have righted the ship. They have righted the ship. They're just trying to kind of finish the Cavaliers off, stop them on their final drive here, and then put the bow on this thing and get back to business, continue that Ville cooking. And that's what we like to see from Mr. Brom, not making us look foolish for giving him a graphic tonight.
No kidding. I expected him to do that. I mean, he kind of had to do it. He was in limited time when we first brought him up in the show, but he executed. He got the job done. He's still cooking. He's probably got a cigar in his mouth right now.
Saving the best for last.
So, I mean, this team looks good. It adds to the accolades we already gave them earlier in the show. This is an exciting team to watch, and they're going to give Florida State some hell come the end of the season, the ACC championship.
Looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That brings us to the end of the show, ladies and gentlemen. Cody, you got any final words, final thoughts for the people out there going into yet another weekend of college football?
I do. Something to watch for the bettors out there. We have history being made. The lowest over-under total since ESPN odds have been available, and I think the lowest over-under since 2005. Iowa and Rutgers this weekend. The total is set at 28, so bettors beware. Sounds like a trap, but that Iowa-Northwestern game hit 17 as a total last week. So the Iowa low under continues to roll. This is a hype train that started last year, and it just keeps going. How low can you go? They do say so. Something I will be watching the total on the Iowa Rutgers at 28 this weekend. So that's my final words of the week.
Crazy thing about that is when over-unders are that low, it almost begs you. It's begging you to take the under. But at the same time, it's begging you to take the over. But it's like, okay, just go ahead. Go ahead, take the under. Do it. You won't do it. Okay, it's begging you to do it. It's egging you on. It's leading you to the edge. It's offering you that joint at a party when you're in 7th grade, saying, hit this shit. It wants you to do it. It's trying to get you to the edge. But what are you going to do? Bettors beware. Wise words right there. Make sure to check us out on social media. GinSportsNetwork.com is our website. Check us out on Instagram at Gin Sports Network and at Gin College. Find our link tree in the bottom of this podcast in the description, and be sure to reach out to us in of all the mediums you have available to you. We look forward to seeing you guys here next time on the Gin College podcast. But for now, I'm John J. II here with Cody Almasi. Have a great night.